After leaving the temporary resting spot at the gravel field, Lin Dong's group wasted no time and headed straight toward the heart of the core region, 100 Dynasties Mountain. At this point, all the dynastic forces in the area were giving it their all, racing toward the final battleground. Their journey continued for an entire day, but it was far from peaceful. The core region had turned into a battlefield akin to a pot of boiling insects, and Lin Dong's group was just one of those insects caught in this fierce struggle. Even though they didn't actively provoke anyone, the Nirvana seals in their possession still attracted the greedy eyes of numerous dynasties. Lin Dong did not show any mercy to these people whose greed had clouded their judgment. Most of the dynasties and experts who dared to challenge them ended up regretting their decision. With only a few managing to flee amid the chaos, the majority found themselves handing over their Nirvana seals. After absorbing the seals from these ill-fated challengers, the golden light radiating from the heaven-tier Nirvana seals in Lin Dong's group grew even more brilliant. Su Ro, in particular, upgraded her Earth-tier Nirvana seal to a heaven-tier one. Now, their group possessed 4 heaven-tier Nirvana seals, which would undoubtedly make many envious if the news got out. Su Kuei, Mo Ling, and the others also absorbed a significant number of Nirvana seals, and though they didn't manage to upgrade to heaven-tier, their seals now glowed faintly with a golden light, indicating they had reached the peak of the Earth-tier. At this rate, an upgrade wasn't out of the question. Lin Dong's group pushed forward relentlessly toward 100 Dynasties Mountain, overcoming numerous obstacles and reaping abundant rewards along the way. However, as they ventured deeper into the core region, the number of provocations gradually decreased. The elimination process in this final battle was ruthless, and only those with extraordinary strength and insight had made it this far, meaning they knew who they could and couldn't afford to provoke. Fewer challenges meant the group felt slightly disappointed. After all, if they wanted to make it onto the Nirvana Golden rankings, they still needed to absorb more Nirvana seals. With no further disturbances, Lin Dong's group relaxed a bit. As night fell on the second day of their journey, they had already entered the depths of the core region. At this speed, it wouldn't be long before they reached the final battleground, 100 Dynasties Mountain. Under the cover of darkness, Lin Dong's group halted their journey. The night in the core region was far more dangerous than in other parts of the ancient battleground. While Lin Dong himself wasn't afraid, Mo Ling, Su Kuei, and the others couldn't ignore the risks. But the primary reason for their stop was that Little Yin seemed to be on the verge of a breakthrough. Back in the ancient secret repository, Little Yin had already reached the peak of the 3rd Nirvana stage. After numerous bloody battles, his strength had further solidified. Coupled with his mutant constitution and the bloodline of the heavenly demon tiger clan, his cultivation progressed at an astonishing rate. Even Lin Dong couldn't help but be amazed. After descending from a mountain peak, Little Yin wasted no time. Sitting down cross-legged as waves of powerful and violent primordial energy radiated outwards, leaving Mo Ling and the others stunned. Is he going to undergo his 4th Nirvana tribulation? Su Kuei asked enviously. Generally, only the leaders of super dynasties could reach this level in the core region. Lin Dong watched with a wide smile. If Little Yin successfully passed the 4th Nirvana tribulation, his strength would soar. With his formidable beast physique, he would even be able to challenge experts at the 5th Nirvana stage. Typically, those who reached the 5th Nirvana stage in this core region were the ones who had already made it onto the Nirvana Golden rankings. You probably won't be far behind in challenging the 4th Nirvana tribulation either, said Little Mink with a grin. Thanks to the Nirvana pills they had obtained from selling 3 calamity-repelling pills to Song Tai in Myriad Phenomena City, Lin Dong's group no longer had to worry about running out of Nirvana pills during their cultivation. This was one of the key reasons why Little Yin was able to show signs of a breakthrough so quickly. Lin Dong smiled but didn't deny it. He could also feel the surging primordial energy within him. However, he wasn't in any rush to force a breakthrough, knowing that the best results come naturally when the time is right. By the way, ever since you passed the first thunderstorm tribulation, your spiritual energy hasn't shown any signs of breaking through again. What are you up to? Little Mink asked, glancing at Lin Dong. Little Mink knew very well how talented Lin Dong was in spiritual energy, especially with the devouring ancestral symbol at his disposal, which further amplified his cultivation. But for some reason, Dong's spiritual energy hadn't advanced since his first thunderstorm tribulation, even though his primordial energy cultivation had already reached the third nirvana stage. Naturally, little Mink wasn't naive enough to think Dong hadn't made any progress over the past half-year. It was more likely that Dong was deliberately holding back. "Ah, you caught on, huh?" Dong chuckled, a mischievous smile, very much like little Mink's usual expression, on his face. He didn't explain further, simply saying, "It's just a little trick of mine. You'll find out soon enough." Little Mink narrowed his eyes, trying to figure out what Dong was up to, but eventually gave up with a shake of his head. He turned his attention to the surrounding mountains, where he could sense numerous hidden forces. Some of them had impressive strength. With little Yin undergoing the nirvana tribulation, the commotion is bound to attract attention. There are many eyes watching us in this chaotic place. We have 4 heaven-tier nirvana seals, which are quite the temptation. With little Yin preoccupied, that leaves us a bit vulnerable, little Mink said, his eyes gleaming as he passed his thoughts to Dong. "You're worried someone might take this opportunity to strike?" Dong's gaze hardened as he too sensed the powerful, hidden auras in the surrounding mountains. If the commotion from little Yan's tribulation drew too much attention, it could indeed be troublesome. We're not exactly nobodies in this core region. Anyone thinking of targeting US should weigh their options carefully, Dong replied calmly. If trouble came, it would be unavoidable. However, anyone who dared to challenge them would have to be prepared to pay the price. Tonight, Dong was curious to see who would be brave enough to make the first move. Emoling, Sukue, and the others understood the situation well. As soon as little Yin entered his cultivation state, they immediately became vigilant, positioning themselves around him. Their powerful primordial energy spread quietly through the air, prepared to defend against any potential threat. Dong and little Mink stood at the edge of the mountain peak, their figures as straight as spears. An astonishingly sharp aura radiated from them, cutting through the night. Behind them, Su Ro half sat on a green stone, her delicate face tinged with alertness. Her slender fingers rested near her wrist, ready to remove her seals and fight at the first sign of danger. She understood all too well that, during little Yan's breakthrough, she had to take on his usual role as the main combat force. Boom! Suddenly, an explosive surge of violent primordial energy erupted from the mountain peak. A wave of intense heat swept across the area, causing the trees atop the peak to wither and crumble in an instant. The coolness of the night was thoroughly dispelled. This disturbance, as expected, immediately drew the attention of numerous onlookers from the surrounding mountains. The sound of wind breaking could be heard as figures leaped into the air, observing from a distance, their gazes flickering in the darkness. Thud. Dong noticed these newly arrived figures immediately. His eyes narrowed as his hand clenched, and a black iron seal appeared in his grasp. Black light spread from the seal, expanding it until it hovered above the peak like a small mountain, releasing waves of terrifying energy. Heaven-tier spiritual treasure? As soon as the black iron seal appeared, gasps of astonishment echoed through the night sky. The voices were filled with greed, but also with hesitation and fear. Those who had made it this far were no fools. They knew the immense power of a heaven-tier spiritual treasure and understood that anyone capable of wielding one would be a formidable opponent. The figures lurking in the darkness, initially eager to make a move, were forced to restrain their greed. Dong calmly watched this unfold. Here, everyone was a competitor. He had no fear of them teaming up, as no one would trust a so-called partner who could easily stab them in the back at any moment. If they hold back, that would be the best outcome, Mo Ling said softly, relieved by the momentary restraint. Dong smiled but was about to speak when his expression suddenly shifted. His head snapped up as he looked toward the distant night sky, his gaze darkening. A terrifying wave of fiery energy rose from afar, condensing in the sky into a monstrous creature. A savage beast with a simian body, white head, and red feet. An ancient ferocious beast, Yuewen? Little Mink's eyes turned cold as he softly spoke. One of the 4 major demon sects. They've finally come looking for us, Dong said, his expression grim as the black iron seal above him began to slowly rotate. The fiery energy in the night sky was exceptionally eye-catching, and the powerful waves it emitted rippled like tides, drawing countless shocked gazes. That's the ferocious beast Yuewen? It's Xiao Shan of the Great Luo Dynasty. He inherited the legacy of the Yuewen sect, one of the 4 major demon sects. As I understand, the 4 demon sects are bitterly opposed to the 4 grand profound sects. Those who receive a demon sect legacy must use the blood of a grand profound sect inheritor to fully complete their inheritance. It seems they're targeting Lindong. This will be interesting. Xiao Shan reportedly survived his 5th Nirvana tribulation, though he ultimately failed. Even so, within the 4th Nirvana stage, few can match him. While Lindong's group did defeat the Stormcloud dynasty, that doesn't mean they'll come out unscathed against Xiao Shan. Whispers rippled through the night, and soon, this mountain peak became the center of attention in the entire region. Under the watchful eyes of many, the enormous fiery beast formed of red energy rapidly approached, coming to a stop above the mountain peak. Behind it, the sound of more figures breaking through the air followed, and several more figures hovered in the sky. Each one radiated powerful energy, clearly the elite of the Great Luo Dynasty. Within the flaming Yuewen beast stood a figure with arms folded behind his back, his pale red eyes staring coldly down at the 2 figures on the peak below. The fiery energy slowly converged back into the figure's body, revealing his appearance to the gathered onlookers. He wore a bright crimson robe, almost blood red, a color that sent chills through those who saw it. Xiao Shan wasn't particularly handsome, and his face bore a dark red mark resembling a small Yuewen, adding to his ferocity. Lindong, you've finally appeared, Xiao Shan said, a smile creeping onto his expressionless face. The smile twisted the Yuewen mark, making his face look even more menacing. Great Luo Dynasty's Xiao Shan? Lindong muttered, frowning as he recognized the uninvited guest. Since you know who I am, then you should understand why I'm here. We have no personal grudge, but you can blame your misfortune on obtaining the legacy of the 4 grand profound sects. Xiao Shan's voice was raspy and unpleasant to hear. The energy here. Someone's undergoing a nirvana tribulation. Looks like I chose a good time to show up, Xiao Shan remarked, his gaze falling on little Yin, whose body was surging with violent primordial energy. Xiao Shan, I don't want to make an enemy of the Great Luo Dynasty, so I advise you to tread carefully. If you persist, you might lose your Nirvana seal, and regret it when it's too late, Lindong said coldly, his eyes narrowing. Ha ha ha, regret? Xiao Shan threw his head back and laughed, his voice full of mockery. Lindong, I know you defeated the Stormcloud dynasty, but Fengsong was nothing special in my eyes. If you think that's enough to impress me, you're sadly mistaken. Behind Xiao Shan, the other Great Luo Dynasty experts laughed derisively, their mocking gazes fixed on Lindong and his companions. If that's how it is, then there's nothing more to say. Let's settle this, Lindong said quietly, his gaze lowering. With a flick of his hand, the black iron seal in the sky began to spin rapidly, radiating black light. The coiled black dragon on the seal seemed to stir as if about to awaken. The mocking smiles on the faces of the Great Luo Dynasty experts faded slightly as they realized the power of the heaven-tier spiritual treasure. Xiao Shan's eyes narrowed as he focused on the black iron seal. With a sweep of his crimson robe, he stepped forward, a cold smile on his face. I've heard plenty about you, Lindong. I've been looking forward to seeing for myself if a guy from a low-level dynasty is really as tough as they say. If you want me to back off, you'd better show me some real skill. With a fierce tremor, Xiao Shan's body erupted in fiery red energy, and the surrounding temperature soared. The violent energy shrouded him, making him appear even more terrifying. Little Mink's purple-black eyes flashed with cold light, and he was about to step forward, but Lindong raised a hand to stop him. Little Yin is on the verge of a breakthrough and can't be disturbed. It's safer if you stay on guard, Lindong said softly. The Great Luo Dynasty had 3 other experts at the 4th Nirvana stage. If they interfered with Little Yan's tribulation, it would be a serious problem. Among them, Little Mink was the best candidate to protect Little Yin from their attacks. That guy hasn't reached the 5th Nirvana stage, but he's far stronger than Fengsong. Can you handle him on your own? Little Mink asked, Hesitating for a moment, Lin Dong smiled. Xiao Shan was indeed much stronger than Feng Zong, but Lin Dong, too, had grown since their last battle. "Take care of little Yin," Lin Dong said before leaping into the sky and landing on the black iron seal under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Impressive courage. Xiao Shan sneered as he saw Lin Dong daring to face him alone. He raised a hand, and fiery red energy surged into his palm, forming a massive, half-meter-long crimson blade. With a sharp swing, the blade sliced through the air with a hiss, tearing it apart. "Lin Dong, they say you're one of the few who can challenge the Super Dynasties despite being from a lower-level dynasty in this 100 Dynasties battle. Let me see for myself if you live up to the hype, or if you're just all talk." Xiao Shan's eyes suddenly turned sharp as he swung his massive crimson blade downward. Dozens of enormous, fiery blade lights shot out like lightning, sealing off all escape routes around Lin Dong. Watching the incoming barrage of blade lights, Lin Dong clenched his hand, summoning the sky crocodile bone spear. With a swift motion, the spear trembled and transformed into a flurry of spear flowers, striking at the blade lights with pinpoint accuracy. Clang, clang, clang. Sparks flew as the fierce primordial energy swirled, and the blade lights were completely shattered by Lin Dong's spear strikes. "I have no interest in playing games with you. If you're going to test me, make it worth my time." Dragon sound web? Lin Dong's eyes flashed coldly as his hand seals changed. The black dragon roaring heaven seal under his feet let out a sharp cry, and the black dragon opened its eyes wide. Its mouth gaped open, and black light frantically condensed, transforming into a massive wave of sound that swept across the night sky with a thunderous roar. Unlike before, this black sound wave didn't scatter in all directions. Instead, it coalesced into a massive net of sound, rushing toward Xiao Shan with astonishing speed. It was clear that Lin Dong's mastery over the black dragon roaring heaven seal had significantly improved, making his control over its power even more fluid. As the black sound wave passed through the air, it left faint scars in the space it traversed. Xiao Shan's eyes narrowed slightly as he observed this, his voice growing more serious. "You've got some skill, I'll admit that. But like you said, I don't have the patience to keep playing either. Since you possess the legacy of the 4 grand profound sects, it's time you see the power of the 4 major demon sects. I'll finish you off with one move." Yuewen Demon Spirit. Xiao Shan spread his arms wide, and his body trembled violently. Torrents of crimson energy erupted from his chest like a volcano, swirling madly. Under the gaze of many startled onlookers, the energy condensed into a massive, fiery red beast over 100 meters tall. The beast had the body of an ape, its legs gleamed like red copper, and its head was as radiant as white jade, dazzling in the night. This was the true body of the ancient ferocious beast Yuewen, a stark contrast to the illusion from before. The ferocious energy it exuded felt as if it had emerged straight from ancient times, carrying an aura of wild, primordial power. Roar. The beast let out a thunderous roar, its overwhelming ferocity filling the air. Its colossal claws, the size of mountains, tore through the sky, shattering the soundwave net with a single punch. Then, its massive hand, cloaked in a shadow that seemed to tear through the fabric of space itself, descended toward Lin Dong with a terrifying, destructive force. The sheer might of the strike was enough to obliterate even a 4th Nirvana stage expert if they were caught in it. On the mountain peak, Su Ro gasped, covering her mouth in shock. Her wide eyes were filled with fear and concern at the sight of Xiao Shan's devastating attack. Little Mink's eyes narrowed slightly. Though his expression remained calm, purple-black energy began to condense at his fingertips. Roar. As the enormous shadow came crashing down, a deafening dragon roar echoed through the heavens. The black dragon atop the iron seal expanded rapidly, soaring into the sky as a powerful pressure radiated outward. Let's see who finishes whom in one move. Lin Dong's eyes gleamed with a fierce light. As he watched the black dragon soar into the sky, his hands suddenly emitted a green glow, which he plunged into the dragon's body. Simultaneously, a portion of the heavenly dragon aura within him split off and flowed into the black dragon's body. You were merely an ordinary dragon in your lifetime, but now I give you the heavenly dragon aura. Show me the full extent of your newfound power." Lin Dong's eyes blazed with intensity as the black dragon, now bursting with radiant green light, writhed wildly. He was eager to see just how powerful this dragon spirit would become after being infused with the heavenly dragon aura. A deafening dragon roar suddenly echoed through the night sky. A wave of energy, visible to the naked eye, rippled outward, carrying an overwhelming pressure. As the wave spread, many nearby experts felt their skin tingle and immediately adopted more cautious expressions. From the energy in the sound wave, they could sense an incredibly violent force. All eyes were instantly drawn to the scene. The black dragon, which had been soaring through the sky, was now thrashing about violently. From beneath its black scales, a deep green light began to emerge, spreading rapidly across its entire body. As the green light spread, the black dragon's scales took on a faint green hue, and its massive body swelled even larger. Its colossal claws, now surrounded by a powerful green glow, seemed capable of crushing mountains with a single strike. The heavenly dragon aura was a unique energy that only high-level dragons possessed. While the black dragon had once been part of the dragon race, it had never reached that level. Now, with Lin Dong's infusion of the heavenly dragon aura, it was as if a divine force had descended upon the dragon spirit. The black dragon, now transformed into a ghostly green hue, coiled and writhed like a steel titan, exuding a primal, unyielding strength. So this is the dragon spirit of a heaven-tier spiritual treasure? Within the enormous body of the Yuewen beast, Xiao stared at the dragon spirit forming in the sky. He, too, sensed the immense pressure it exuded, and a hint of seriousness flashed across his eyes. Though Lin Dong was only at the third nirvana stage, this level of combat prowess was enough to make even Xiao a little apprehensive. It was no wonder Lin Dong had defeated Fengsong and his peers. But even if it is a dragon spirit, it's merely a common one. My Yuewen beast carries a trace of the Yuewen's true essence. In ancient times, even the dragon race feared the ferocious Yuewen beast. Dragons or not, the Yuewen slew them all. "Hand over your nirvana seal, boy." Xiao sneered coldly. The massive Yuewen beast roared as it lunged forward, its gigantic hand reaching out to seize the dragon spirit. The air exploded in its wake, unable to withstand the ferocious power behind the strike. The Yuewen beast might have a fearsome reputation, but you're nothing more than a pale imitation. If you want my nirvana seal, I'm afraid you don't have what it takes. Cold light flickered in Lin Dong's eyes. As the dragon spirit's power surged, his gaze sharpened. With a fierce swing of his hand, the colossal dragon's tail lashed out, tearing through the air. Its ghostly green claws, brimming with an earth-shattering force, collided head-on with the charging Yuewen beast under the astonished gaze of the onlookers. Boom! In the night sky, the two titanic beasts clashed with terrifying energy. The impact was indescribable, a deafening explosion that made countless spectators' ears ring. Thud, thud, thud. The green dragon coiled and roared, while the Yuewen beast howled in fury. The two behemoths exchanged blows at an astonishing pace, their claws and fists colliding with such force that waves of violent energy rippled through the air, causing the surrounding mountain peaks to collapse under the sheer pressure. In the night sky, countless experts watched the ferocious clash between the two colossal creatures. Their faces were solemn, fully aware that the power behind each strike of the dragon spirit and the Yuewen fiend was enough to overwhelm even a fourth nirvana stage expert. A barrage of such strikes, each fiercer than the last, was something few could hope to endure. Lin Dong's reputation is well-earned. To think he's able to hold his ground against Xiao like this. Some of the onlookers, faces heavy with tension, couldn't help but feel relieved that their greed hadn't clouded their judgment earlier. If they had tried to cross Lin Dong, the dragon spirit's palm alone would have left most of them, particularly those at the third nirvana stage, severely injured. Boom! Another violent collision erupted in the sky. The dragon spirit and the Yuewen fiend both reeled back several hundred meters, their power shaking the heavens. This guy, Xiao Shan, hidden within the Yuewen beast, gritted his teeth as he felt the violent energy surging back at him. He hadn't held back at all in his battle against Lin Dong. Summoning the Yuewen demon spirit was one of his most powerful moves. Yet even this wasn't enough to defeat Lin Dong. My strength is still a notch above yours. Let's see how long you can keep this up. A cold light flashed in Xiao Shan's eyes as he changed his hand seals. An even more potent wave of primordial energy surged out from his body, causing the Yuewen demon spirit to swell in size. Humph! Seeing Xiao Shan's relentless pursuit, Lin Dong's patience wore thin. With a cold snort, he waved his hand, and the black dragon roaring heaven seal howled through the air, hovering like a small mountain. Its pitch-black surface exuded an overwhelming weight. Dragon seal of heaven. Lin Dong's expression grew solemn as his hand seals flickered. The ghostly green dragon spirit roared to the sky before transforming into a surge of radiant green light, which poured into the massive black seal. As this enormous influx of energy was absorbed, the black iron seal shone with ghostly green light, and a shadow of a coiling dragon began to faintly materialize on its surface. Buzz! The black iron seal trembled violently before suddenly crashing down, like a mountain suspended in the sky, smashing into the gigantic body of the Yuewen demon spirit. Clang! A deafening boom resounded. The terrifying force from the black iron seal shook the Yuewen demon spirit, sending it flying back several hundred meters. Cracks as thick as an arm appeared all over its massive body. Lin Dong's devastating strike had shattered the Yuewen demon spirit. The combination of the heaven-tier spiritual treasure and the heavenly dragon aura produced a terrifyingly powerful attack. Crack! The cracks on the demon spirit rapidly spread under the shocked gaze of the onlookers. In the next moment, the Yuewen demon spirit exploded into pieces with a loud bang. A shockwave rippled outward, flattening the forest below. Amid the destruction, a figure was flung back in disarray, staggering as his toes tapped desperately against the air to steady himself. The air around him exploded from the residual force leaking from his body. After retreating for 100 meters, the figure finally managed to stabilize himself. His face, pale and grim, belonged to none other than Xiao Shan. Leader! The experts of the Great Luo dynasty were aghast. They hadn't expected their powerful leader, Xiao Shan, to be forced into such a pitiful state during his fight with Lin Dong. Attack! Capture the others! Xiao Shan's expression was savage as he shouted orders. After the battle, he had come to realize the terrifying extent of Lin Dong's strength. He was no longer willing to face Lin Dong one-on-one. However, with the numerical advantage of the Great Luo dynasty, he believed they could still gain the upper hand. Yes. At Xiao Shan's command, the experts of the Great Luo dynasty surged forward, eyes flashing with murderous intent as they rushed toward Little Mink and the others on the mountain peak. Don't move an inch. Little Mink's eyes turned cold as he spoke softly. With a flick of his fingers, 10 purple-black chains shot out like lightning, weaving into a web that enveloped all the charging Great Luo dynasty experts. Bang! Bang! The Great Luo dynasty experts unleashed their powerful martial arts techniques, striking against the layers of purple-black chains. Yet to their shock, even with their combined strength, they were unable to break through the defensive web. A chill crept into their hearts as they glanced at the handsome yet icy-faced young man before them. A sense of unease began to stir. With so many of you, you still can't break through his defense? What are you doing? Xiao Shan's eye twitched in frustration as he witnessed this scene. He had severely underestimated the strength of Lin Dong's group. Damn it! I should have brought the Bloodseal dynasty with me. Xiao Shan gritted his teeth. The Bloodseal dynasty was another dynasty that had inherited the legacy of the 4 major demon sects. This battle isn't going our way. We need to retreat. A flicker of hesitation crossed Xiao Shan's eyes as he decided to pull back. However, just as the thought of retreat formed in his mind, a powerful gust of wind appeared above him. He quickly looked up, only to see Lin Dong's cold, emotionless face staring down at him. I gave you a chance, but you insisted on pushing your luck. Don't blame me for showing no mercy. Murderous intent surged in Lin Dong's eyes. Xiao Shan's actions had clearly infuriated him. Lin Dong reached out, and violent green light surged forth. A layer of green scales rapidly formed over his hand, which then swelled in size, transforming into a massive dragon claw. In the past, Lin Dong had only been able to transform a single finger into a dragon's claw. But after his recent battles, he had made significant progress with the Azure Dragon transformation art, allowing him to now transform an entire hand into a dragon's claw. Azure Dragon Palm, Shatter Spirit. The dragon claw descended with a roar, tearing through the void. Xiao Shan could only stare in terror as the enormous dragon claw, filled with unstoppable power, flashed before his eyes and crashed down onto him. Boom! The overwhelming force exploded upon impact. Xiao Shan coughed up a mouthful of blood as his body was sent crashing down. In midfall, Lin Dong grabbed hold of Xiao Shan's wrist, and under Xiao Shan's shocked gaze, drained the golden Heaven Tier Nirvana Seal from his palm completely. Heh, so this Heaven Tier Nirvana Seal is quite potent. Looks like you've absorbed quite a few people, but now it's mine. Lin Dong grinned as the golden Nirvana Seal absorbed into his palm took on a faint, purple-gold hue. Lin Dong. Xiao Shan's body plummeted to the ground, his breath ragged and weak. His face was twisted in rage. That Nirvana Seal was something he had painstakingly acquired after absorbing the seals of nearly 10 fourth Nirvana stage experts, and now, all that effort had been snatched away by Lin Dong. In the night sky, the surrounding experts exchanged astonished glances. No one had expected Xiao Shan to lose to Lin Dong, much less have his Nirvana Seal stolen so cleanly. Lin Dong, I swear I'll never forgive you. Xiao Shan's body hit the ground with a heavy thud, causing him to spit out another mouthful of blood. Ignoring his injuries, he looked up and roared in fury. You brought this upon yourself. Lin Dong sneered. If he had lost, Xiao Shan would have taken not only his Nirvana Seal but likely his life as well, completing his Yuewen sect legacy with Lin Dong's blood. Victory and defeat were two sides of the same coin, a truth Lin Dong had seen countless times over the past year on this ancient battlefield. Xiao Shan, now heavily injured, no longer posed a threat. Lin Dong didn't bother with him anymore. Instead, he turned his attention to Little Yin, who was in the middle of his tribulation. By this point, violent primordial energy had condensed so densely around Little Yin that it was almost tangible, spreading madly in all directions. Within a radius of dozens of meters, the ground had dried and cracked, the trees withered and turned to dust. Mo Ling and the others, who had been guarding Little Yin, were forced to retreat as the violent energy became too intense, using their own primordial energy to protect themselves from the scorching waves. The fourth Nirvana tribulation was not to be taken lightly, but for Little Yin, it didn't pose a lethal threat. His physical body was already immensely strong, far surpassing even those with the Nirvana golden body at the fourth Nirvana stage. As long as no unforeseen accidents occurred, Little Yin had a 70% chance of successfully overcoming the tribulation. This level of confidence was something most tribulation takers could only dream of. The great Luo Dynasty's experts have been held off. Lin Dong shifted his gaze toward the sky above the mountain, where the purple-black chains shimmered, forming a massive web that trapped the great Luo Dynasty's experts. Many onlookers were stunned by this sight. Despite the fact that the great Luo Dynasty had dozens of people, including 3/4 Nirvana stage experts, they were still unable to break through the barrier created by Little Mink. What terrifying strength! In the surrounding night sky, many observed the great Luo Dynasty experts struggling in vain, unable to approach the mountain peak. Their eyes then turned toward the handsome young man standing in the air with his arms folded. Those with keen insight began to show expressions of shock. To single-handedly hold off 3/4 Nirvana stage experts, along with dozens of other strong opponents, was an extraordinary feat. Typically, only experts who had reached the 5th Nirvana stage could accomplish such a thing. Yet, here this feat was being displayed by this exceptionally handsome youth. Could it be that this young man had also reached the 5th Nirvana stage? At this realization, cold sweat broke out on many foreheads, and as they exchanged glances, they couldn't hide the fear in their eyes. The 5th Nirvana stage was a level that few could reach, even in the core region. Those who did were almost always the most outstanding individuals from the Super Dynasties, Geniuses capable of securing a spot on the Nirvana Golden rankings and attracting the attention of top sections. But now, could it be that such a monstrous talent had emerged from a so-called lower-level dynasty? How can the great Yin dynasty be this strong? Many were left speechless, unable to comprehend how a lower-level dynasty could produce so many monstrous talents all at once. Originally, they had thought Lin Dong was the most exceptional figure from the great Yin dynasty, but now they realized that there was another, equally formidable individual who had been hiding in the shadows all along. With Lin Dong's group, they could even stand against the elites of the super dynasties without being outmatched. As astonishment filled the air, Lin Dong stood silently in front of the mountain peak, his feet on the black iron seal, and the sky crocodile bone spear in hand. His sharp, icy gaze swept across the surroundings. He knew that the intense battle had drawn the attention of many powerful experts. At this crucial moment in Little Yan's tribulation, any interference could have catastrophic consequences. Although he had already defeated Xiao Shan, Lin Dong didn't pursue him aggressively because he understood what was at stake. An oppressive aura radiated from Lin Dong's body, like a sword cutting through the night. As his piercing gaze moved across the crowd, few dared to meet his eyes. Having witnessed Lin Dong's impressive combat strength and Little Mink's terrifying power, even those who coveted the Nirvana Seals and Heaven-tier spiritual treasure were hesitant to act. Bang! Bang! As Lin Dong surveyed the scene, the experts from the Great Luo dynasty were flung out of the purple-black web one by one, each looking disheveled and battered. As they were thrown out, their Nirvana Seals were snatched away by Little Mink without exception. In just a few minutes, only the 3/4 Nirvana stage experts remained struggling within the web. Everyone else had been dealt with by Little Mink alone. At the same time, Xiao Shan, looking weakened and unsteady, managed to stagger back into the air. His aura had diminished significantly, clearly showing the severe damage inflicted by Lin Dong earlier. When Xiao Shan saw the heavy losses suffered by the Great Luo dynasty, his pale face turned a sickly green. However, he no longer dared to attack. He understood that in his current state, he was no match for Lin Dong. Trying to fight again would only lead to the same outcome. Boom, boom, boom. 3 dull thuds echoed through the air, and the crowd saw 3 purple-black chains darting out like venomous snakes, striking the bodies of the remaining 3 Great Luo dynasty experts. The immense force behind the chains sent the 3 men flying, coughing up blood as they were knocked back. Their Nirvana Seals were promptly snatched away by Little Mink without hesitation. The 3 figures were caught by the remaining Great Luo dynasty forces in midair, their bodies limp and battered. Only then did the purple-black chains in Little Mink's hands begin to fade. With a glance, his beautiful face flashed with a cold, almost murderous glint. No matter how calm and composed Little Mink usually seemed, he still had the heart of a sky demon mink. If it weren't for the concern of exposing his identity and causing trouble for Lin Dong, he would have devoured all of these enemies long ago rather than waste time with such drawn-out efforts. Who else dares to target us? Having wiped out the Great Luo dynasty forces with such a dominating display, Little Mink's cold gaze slowly swept across the surrounding night sky as his chilling voice echoed. The voice caused a subtle shift in many expressions, but in the end, no one dared to respond. Even the mighty Great Luo dynasty had suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of Lin Dong and his companions. No one else was willing to risk provoking such a dangerous group. Silence descended over the sky. Mo Ling and the others on the mountain peak couldn't help but rub their faces in disbelief. They smiled wryly, finding it hard to imagine that Lin Dong and Little Mink alone had managed to strike such fear into so many talented experts from various dynasties. These 2 monsters. Lin Dong stood quietly atop the black iron seal, gazing at the now silent night sky. His expression softened slightly. It seemed that after witnessing the defeat of the Great Luo dynasty, no one else would be foolish enough to make the first move. Just as this thought crossed Lin Dong's mind, his head suddenly snapped up, his gaze locking onto a distant mountain peak. There, a figure dressed in green appeared, eyes cold and sinister, staring at him like a ghost. Moonlight spilled from the sky, illuminating the twisted face of the figure, making it appear ghostly and terrifying. Lin Dong's eyes narrowed as he focused on the figure, his grip on the sky, crocodile bones spear tightening. A chilling voice, filled with barely restrained killing intent, escaped through his clenched teeth. Lin Langtian, you're still alive after all.